7-hydroxymitragynine, 7-OH. You walk up to a gas station counter, glance past the energy drinks, and see a tiny silver blister pack claiming all-natural herbal relief. You think it's just raw kratom powder, the bitter, bulky leaf crushed into capsules that makes people gag long before they consume anything dangerous. But this isn't leaf powder. Inside this foil packet lies pure 7-hydroxymitragynine, an isolated alkaloid oxidized directly from Mitragyna speciosa. In raw leaf, 7-OH exists only in trace fractions of a percent. When chemists isolate and concentrate it, they unleash a molecule with 13 times higher affinity at your brain's mu-opioid receptors than morphine itself. Raw kratom leaf has a built-in safety net. If you consume too much, secondary alkaloids trigger violent nausea and vomiting before lethal or addictive doses reach your brain. 7-OH strips away every single safety valve. It delivers pure, unbuffered receptor activation straight to your central nervous system, without the bulky plant material to reject it. You think buying something off a glass display counter next to chewing gum guarantees safety, but your brain's receptors don't care about consumer packaging. Within days, your nervous system downregulates its natural endorphin production to compensate for the synthetic deluge, trapping you in rapid physical dependence while you assume you're taking a simple plant supplement. But while 7-OH relies on laboratory refinement to hide behind a clean retail counter, other clandestine opioid derivatives bypass refinement entirely, using crude household solvents that consume your body from the inside out long before the drug even hits your brain. Krokodil, Desomorphine. Imagine being so consumed by addiction that you willingly inject industrial paint thinner, match-head phosphorus, and raw gasoline directly into your veins. The target molecule here isn't inherently corrosive. It's desomorphine, a full mu-opioid agonist first synthesized in 1932 that acts as a potent, fast-acting painkiller. In a sterile medical lab, desomorphine is simply a powerful narcotic. But on the street, desomorphine goes by the terrifying name Krokodil. Street chemists cook codeine pills over open flames using red phosphorus scraped from matchboxes, iodine, and liquid gasoline as crude chemical reagents. They never purify the end product. When you inject this murky liquid, the desomorphine reaches your brain in seconds, binding to mu-opioid receptors with terrifying intensity. But the unreacted gasoline, phosphorus, and industrial acids don't vanish. They immediately strip the endothelial lining of your blood vessels, causing catastrophic thrombophlebitis. Your veins collapse and rot. Because local blood flow is permanently cut off, surrounding tissue dies from localized hypoxia, turning your skin scaly, green, and necrotic, hence the name Krokodil, before gangrene decays your muscles right down to exposed bone. You might tell yourself that basic self-preservation would stop anyone from injecting toxic solvents, but the intense opioid rush wears off in under 90 minutes, plunging your brain into withdrawal agony so severe that avoiding the crash outweighs the literal rotting of your limbs. Yet, as horrific as physical decay from corrosive chemistry is, there is a class of plant alkaloids that leaves your body completely unscathed, while wiping your free will and memory so thoroughly that you become a living, breathing puppet. Scopolamine, devil's breath. Someone walks up to you on a busy street, blows a fine white powder into your face, and 5 minutes later, you walk straight to your ATM, empty your life savings, and hand it over with a polite smile. You aren't knocked unconscious. nor are you paralyzed. You look, talk, and move like a completely functional human being. You simply have no ability to say no. This is scopolamine, often called devil's breath, a naturally occurring tropane alkaloid derived from the nightshade tree Brugmansia. Scopolamine acts as a potent competitive antagonist at central muscarinic acetylcholine receptors throughout your brain. Acetylcholine is the critical neurotransmitter responsible for encoding short-term memories into long-term storage in your hippocampus and maintaining executive control in your prefrontal cortex. When scopolamine blocks these receptors, your prefrontal cortex loses its ability to evaluate risk, process suspicion, or exercise executive veto. Simultaneously, your hippocampus stops recording reality altogether. Because your motor pathways remain untouched, you remain wide awake and completely mobile, but your conscious mind is stripped of agency, leaving you in a state of hypersuggestible obedience while recording zero memories of what you're doing. You assume your willpower and critical thinking are permanent fixtures of your identity, but all it takes is a microscopic block of acetylcholine signals to transform your entire personality into an open vessel for someone else's commands. But while scopolamine strips away your mental control by shutting down excitatory learning pathways, other natural alkaloids interact with your brain's inhibitory systems in a way that silences anxiety entirely, without stealing a single drop of your mental clarity. Kava, Kavalactones. You drink a bowl of muddy, earthy liquid in a South Pacific village, and within minutes, a wave of profound physical calm washes over your shoulders, while your mind remains sharp, alert, and crystal clear. Most substances that crush anxiety, like alcohol, benzodiazepines, or prescription sedatives, tax your brain by clouding your thoughts, slurring your speech, and impairing your motor control. Kava does none of those things. The secret lies in a family of bioactive compounds called Kavalactones, primarily kavin, extracted from the roots of Piper methysticum. Unlike classical sedatives that indiscriminately flood your brain with inhibitory signals, Kavalactones act as delicate positive allosteric modulators at GABA-A receptors. They gently enhance your brain's natural calming signals without forcing the ion channel wide open. Simultaneously, Kavalactones block voltage-gated sodium and calcium channels in peripheral nerve pathways. This dual action stops tension signals from firing in your skeletal muscles while sparing your central cognitive pathways. The result is what neuroscientists call the South Pacific paradox. Your body feels completely weightless and relaxed, yet your cognitive processing speed, focus, and memory encoding remain entirely intact. You have been conditioned to believe that deep relaxation always comes at the cost of mental acuity, but your nervous system is fully capable of decoupling physical tension from cognitive focus when the right receptors are targeted. Yet, when pharmaceutical companies attempt to harness fast-acting mood regulators to treat everyday depression, the line between therapeutic relief and full-blown opioid addiction can vanish inside a single mislabeled bottle on a convenience store shelf. Tianeptine, gas station heroin. You buy a bottle of dietary supplements labeled for focus and mood enhancement at a local convenience store, unaware that you are about to trigger a withdrawal nightmare rivaling street narcotics. For decades, Tianeptine was prescribed across Europe as an atypical antidepressant for mild depression, operating under the assumption that it simply modified serotonin uptake. But at higher doses, its true pharmacological nature reveals itself. Tianeptine is not just a mood regulator. At supratherapeutic doses, easily achieved by taking multiple capsules from over-the-counter products sold under names like Zaza or Neptune's Fix. Tianeptine functions as a high-affinity full agonist at both mu and delta opioid receptors. It floods the exact same brain pathways as morphine or oxycodone, producing intense euphoria. However, tianeptine causes extremely rapid receptor desensitization and endocytosis. Your brain internalizes and shuts down these opioid receptors faster than almost any known pharmaceutical compound. Within days, your baseline tolerance explodes from milligrams to multi-gram doses just to feel normal. When you stop, you experience a dual-wave withdrawal, the agonizing physical torment of severe opioid deprivation, combined with the profound psychiatric collapse of abrupt antidepressant discontinuation. You might think over-the-counter supplement labels protect you from hard narcotics, but a simple shift in dosage can transform an ordinary antidepressant into a chemical trap that rewires your brain's reward circuitry in less than a week. Zolpidem, Ambien. You take a small white tablet, lie down in bed, and wait for your eyes to grow heavy. But instead of drifting peacefully into sleep, you enter a bizarre hypnotic limbo, where your conscious mind goes completely dark, but your physical body stays awake.
This is the realm of Zolpidem, a non-benzodiazepine Z-drug designed to cure insomnia.
Scientifically, Zolpidem is a master of targeted neurology. Unlike older sedatives that indiscriminately dampen the whole brain, Zolpidem binds with pinpoint selectivity to GABA-A receptors containing the alpha-1 subunit. This specific subunit controls the brain's sleep switch, effectively shutting down prefrontal cortical awareness and wiping clean your short-term memory consolidation. But here is the terrifying neurological glitch. While your executive pilot has been knocked unconscious, your motor pathways, basal ganglia, and lower brainstem remain fully powered. You become an unwitting automaton. Users awaken the next morning to discover fully cooked meals in their kitchen, strange messages sent to exes, or their car parked crookedly in the driveway, possessing zero recollection of the midnight excursions their body performed while their mind was completely asleep. Xylazine, Tranq. Imagine an overdose victim lying motionless on the pavement, surrounded by paramedics. A dose of naloxone is administered directly into their nasal passage, the life-saving drug that usually reverses opioid overdoses in seconds. But this time, nothing happens. The victim remains deep in a dangerous blackout, their heart rate dangerously slow, their breathing barely a whisper. This is the deadly reality of xylazine, known on the streets as Tranq. Originally developed as a veterinary sedative for horses and cattle, xylazine is not an opioid at all. It is a central alpha-2 adrenergic receptor agonist. It works by blunting the brainstem's sympathetic outflow, suppressing norepinephrine release, and drastically dropping blood pressure and heart rate. Because it operates on alpha-2 receptors rather than mu opioid receptors, Narcan is chemically powerless to wake someone from a xylazine stupor. Even worse is its systemic devastation. Xylazine causes severe peripheral vasoconstriction, choking off micro blood flow to the skin and capillaries. Over time, users develop deep, non-healing necrotic wounds and open ulcers across their limbs, regardless of where the drug was injected, effectively starving living tissue of oxygen until it rots. Amanita Muscaria, Muscimol. You have seen this mushroom in fairy tales, video games, and folklore, the iconic red cap speckled with white spots. But if you consume Amanita Muscaria, you won't experience a traditional psychedelic trip of swirling colors and geometric fractals. Instead, your reality breaks down into a bizarre, dreamlike distortion of physical scale and looping time. While classical psychedelics like LSD or psilocybin work by mimicking serotonin at the 5-HT2A receptor, Amanita Muscaria bypasses serotonin entirely. Its primary psychoactive driver is Muscimol, a potent agonist that targets your brain's GABA-A receptors, paired with ibotenic acid, a compound that overstimulates excitatory NMDA receptors. This neurochemical tug-of-war disrupts the parietal cortex, the region responsible for spatial awareness and body mapping. You enter a state known as Alice in Wonderland syndrome. A doorframe looks 30 feet tall. Your own hands appear microscopic. And a single step feels like leaping across a canyon. Your perception of time fractures into repetitive loops, where you relive the exact same 5-second action dozens of times, trapped inside a waking dream, controlled entirely by GABAergic overload. Diethyl Ether, ether frolics. In the mid-19th century, before modern clinical anesthetics existed, Victorian partygoers would gather in parlor rooms to inhale a sweet-smelling, highly volatile liquid, tumbling over furniture in bursts of uncontrollable laughter and euphoria. This was diethyl ether. Operating as a heavy-handed pharmacological sledgehammer, ether acts as an NMDA receptor antagonist while simultaneously enhancing GABA-A inhibition. Lipophilic and incredibly fast-acting, ether vapor crosses the blood-brain barrier in seconds, rapidly uncoupling the cerebral cortex from lower sensory centers. The user experiences an intense surge of disinhibition, numbness, and floating euphoria, followed by a dramatic slowdown of physical reflexes. But what makes ether truly unique is its volatile elimination pathway. Ether is not easily metabolized by the liver. Instead, it circulates unchanged through the bloodstream and is slowly off-gassed through the lungs and skin. Long after the euphoric high has faded, an ether user will exhale pungent, sweet chemical vapors with every breath for up to 24 hours, advertising their volatile intoxication to anyone standing within 20 feet. Methaqualone, Quaaludes. In the 1970s disco era, a single pill known as Lemon 714 became the ultimate status symbol of reckless nocturnal indulgence. Known scientifically as methaqualone, or commercially as Quaaludes, this compound was originally synthesized in India as a potential anti-malarial drug before its profound sedative properties were discovered. Pharmacologically, methaqualone is a potent sedative hypnotic that binds to GABA-A receptors at a unique allosteric site on the beta subunit, distinctly separate from where benzodiazepines or barbiturates attach. When methaqualone binds, it dramatically amplifies the inhibitory signals flooding the central nervous system, producing an intense wave of muscular relaxation paired with overwhelming, disinhibited euphoria. But the signature characteristic of a Quaalude high is severe motor ataxia, colloquially known as jelly legs. The drug selectively disrupts the cerebellum's ability to coordinate muscle tone and balance. Users would find their cognitive confidence sky high, while their physical bodies collapsed into rubbery, uncontrollable limbs, slurring words and stumbling across dance floors in a state of absolute, unworried paralysis. DPT, Dipropyltryptamine. You sit in a quiet room, inhale a bitter vapor, and within seconds, your ears are filled with an overwhelming, high-frequency physical hum that feels like a jet engine vibrating inside your skull. This isn't the playful visual geometry of magic mushrooms, or the colorful cartoon euphoria of LSD. This is Dipropyltryptamine, known colloquially as DPT, or the light. Synthesized in the 1950s, DPT is a synthetic tryptamine that acts as a powerful, non-selective agonist at 5-HT2A and 5-HT1A serotonin receptors. But what separates DPT from almost every other psychedelic is its bizarre, terrifying somatic signature. The drug triggers rapid, intense somatic tremors and auditory hallucinations that feel physically violent. Religious groups, such as the Temple of the True Inner Light, adopted DPT as a sacred sacrament, believing its crushing physical vibrations and sudden ego annihilation were the literal presence of God entering the human vessel. As your sense of self disintegrates, you are thrown into contact with massive, indifferent presences and shadowy entropic landscapes. You might assume psychedelic trips are purely mental journeys of self-reflection, but DPT proves that a slight tweak in tryptamine chemistry can turn a mental trip into a terrifying physical assault on your sensory architecture. Buprenorphine, Suboxone. Imagine being an opioid addict, desperate to break free from the cycle of addiction. You take a prescription film called Suboxone, expecting immediate relief from your withdrawals. Instead, within 3 minutes, you are plunged into an unimaginable violent hell of cold sweats, uncontrollable muscle spasms, and projectile vomiting. This nightmare is called precipitated withdrawal, and it is caused by a fascinating pharmacological paradox. Suboxone's active ingredient is buprenorphine, a partial mu-opioid agonist with an extraordinarily high binding affinity. Pharmacologically, buprenorphine's binding affinity is so strong that it acts like a biological crowbar, violently ripping full opioids like heroin, oxycodone, or fentanyl off your brain's mu-opioid receptors. But here is the catch. While buprenorphine binds to the receptor far tighter than morphine, it only partially activates it, hitting only a fraction of its intrinsic signaling capacity. If you take buprenorphine while full opioids are still occupying your receptors, your brain's overall opioid activation drops off a cliff in seconds. You expect a medicine designed for recovery to bring peace, but its ruthless receptor affinity turns it into a biological wrecking ball if administered a single hour too soon. Carfentanil. You hold a tiny glass vial containing a single white speck, barely the size of a grain of salt. If that single grain touches a tear in your glove or is accidentally inhaled, your brainstem's respiratory center will shut down completely in less than 30 seconds. This synthetic analog is 10,000 times more potent than baseline compounds and 100 times more potent than standard variants. Synthesized in 1974, carfentanil was never intended for human consumption. Its sole clinical purpose was to immobilize massive 10,000-pound mammals like elephants and rhinoceroses. Carfentanil binds to mu-opioid receptors with such overwhelming, unbreakable affinity that it floods the brainstem, immediately halting the automatic drive to breathe. Its microgram lethality is so absolute that militaries have investigated it as a non-lethal chemical weapon, most notoriously during the 2002 Moscow theater siege, where aerosolized fentanyl derivatives were pumped into the building, killing over 100 hostages from instant respiratory paralysis. You might think of poison as something that takes time to digest or circulate, but carfentanil proves that a fraction of a milligram of synthetic chemistry can extinguish human consciousness before you can even draw a single breath. Yohimbine. You are sitting quietly at your desk, completely safe, when suddenly Your heart begins pounding against your ribs like a jackhammer. Cold sweat drenches your skin, and a wave of absolute, primal terror sweeps through your chest. There is no threat in the room, no bad news, no danger. Your brain has simply had its central adrenaline brake pedal violently ripped off. This is the physiological reality of Yohimbine, an alkaloid extracted from the bark of the West African Posinistalia yohimbe tree. Yohimbine is a potent, selective antagonist at presynaptic alpha-2 adrenergic receptors. Normally, presynaptic alpha-2 receptors act as a negative feedback loop, the body's natural emergency brake that signals your brain to stop releasing adrenaline and noradrenaline when levels get too high. When Yohimbine blocks these brake receptors, the feedback loop is severed. Your sympathetic nervous system enters an uninhibited, runaway feedback loop, dumping massive surges of adrenaline into your bloodstream. You experience all the gut-wrenching physical sensations of being chased by a predator while sitting entirely motionless in a chair. You assume your emotions dictate your physical fight or flight response, but Yohimbine proves that simply blocking a single inhibitory receptor can force your body into absolute primal panic, while your mind watches in helpless confusion. Syrian Rue, Harmaline. You pick up a handful of bitter brown seeds from the plant Paganum harmala, known since antiquity as Syrian Rue. If you consume these seeds alone, you will experience mild tremors, a heavy physical dreaminess, and a slight buzzing in your ears. But Syrian Rue holds a secret. It is the master chemical key that unlocks the most powerful visionary compounds on Earth. Syrian Rue is densely packed with harmala alkaloids, specifically harmine and harmaline, which act as potent reversible inhibitors of monoamine oxidase A, or MAOA. Under normal circumstances, your gut and liver are lined with MAOA enzymes, biological security guards designed to instantly degrade monoamines, like serotonin, dopamine, and orally ingested tryptamines, like DMT, before they can reach your bloodstream. If you swallow pure DMT, your digestive MAOA enzymes disarm it completely, rendering it useless. But when harmala alkaloids enter your digestive system, they temporarily deactivate MAOA, standing down the biological guards. Now, any orally ingested tryptamine passes through your gut wall completely unhindered, launching a multi-hour, profound psychedelic journey. Syrian Rue reveals the ultimate neurological reframe. Nature's most terrifying and profound visionary molecules aren't blocked by your brain. They are blocked by your stomach. And all it takes is a humble seed disarming your gut's chemical security guards to open the gateway to another world. Every substance we have explored today proves one fundamental truth. Your perception of reality, your control over your limbs, and your very sense of self are held together by a delicate balance of chemical keys and biological locks. If you haven't seen part 2 of this series yet, where we break down the bizarre mechanics of nitrous oxide nerve damage, datura delirium, and the paradoxical sedation of kratom, click the video on your screen right now and continue exploring the hidden boundaries of human pharmacology.